Hi, Pastor Kaji. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well. It's good to see you.
As well. Thank you.
And happy holidays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy everything.
Diwali. Everything.
Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa for sure.
So tell me, what does Christmas time mean to you?
So traditionally, I didn't grow up in a household where we were necessarily celebrating Christmas from a religious perspective, but it built all kinds of very deep traditions in my family. And it had to do with all of the people who came from my grandparents' stock coming together, and we would crowd into the house, and we would observe a number of traditions, which included going to church. But that was the only time I went to church.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Christmas for sure, maybe not Easter. So, but church was like the thing you did, and it was beautiful, and there would be darkness and light and candles and carols, and I loved that. But I also knew that was going to end at like 11 o'clock at night, and we'd go back to my grandfather's house, who was a pastor, and my grandmother would have everything laid out for everybody in the community to enjoy. A lot of bounty. Christmas is about bounty.
I really like that. And at this time, especially if I had to speak for myself, being someone who's a transplant from somewhere else and here in New York, it can be somewhat lonely, especially when you're working with your family. How do you gather a sense of community with people around this time of the year?
I mean, I think, as I say with many things, I think you have to kind of queer your experience, and one of the things that I mean by that I've learned from queer communities is that we build our pathways to love and belonging, and that even if there's not a clear sense of people who you could be with who make you feel closer to the love of God through the traditional lines or what's been assigned to you by birth, you build that for yourself. And I think that's something that's so key for all of us to consider as we think about how we spend our time.
I really like that. And this year there were so many events that took place in church thanks to you. What should we look forward to in 2024 in terms of bringing the queer community even closer and projecting us out there even more?
I think this is a time where all of us are going to, we're coming a couple of years out of the intensity of pandemic, where a lot of us had to all of a sudden question not just our own mortality, but also every relationship we have, our jobs, our commitments, everything. And now we've had some time to think about that, and maybe we've experimented and trying different new ways of doing stuff, but now I think it's important for us to live with some deep intention, and that's one of the things that I want to encourage us to head into 2024 with is just intention. Like, we don't have to live our lives by accident.
I love that. I really love that. And what has been your most memorable experience this year? Because every Sunday you preach the word of God, you touch the hearts of so many people, drawing them closer to Jesus. And I'm sure that can take a toll on you at some point, like just seeing how people are just willing to surrender and just be closer to Jesus. But I just want to know what's been your most memorable time on the pulpit this year?
Oh, on the pulpit. I think
outside the pulpit.
No, I mean, I think that's just it. My most meaningful moments are in the pulpit, serving the people. And this year, I would say it was really profound to me when we were able to open up our sanctuary for the first time in the history of ballroom, to the ballroom community, where I learned so much about how it felt so close to church, because it wasn't just that people love on each other and they get closer to the Spirit of God, and I know that is part of what's offered intentionally in the ballroom community, but it was also like you could see that there were conflicts between houses, within houses, And that felt like church too. There was so much politics. I mean, it was kind of crazy. And I was like, oh, this feels like home. And I think what is really incredible to me is that home doesn't have to be what you think it is. Right? Like, why would I have a home in the ballroom community? But I did. Why would I have a home in a place that I never anticipated of any other place? And I think that opens up so many new pathways for the people. And I want us, so my Christmas Eve sermon is going to be about uprooting ourselves. And for New Year's, I just want to say, like, the Holy Family uprooted themselves to... they came from Nazareth to Bethlehem, completely different states. They're immigrants in a new land. Nobody wants to have them, but they did it anyway. And what they did, the sacrifice they made, the ways they had uprooted themselves, led to what could birth the Christ, Emmanuel, God with
love.
us.
Yes.
Yeah, a new love. And so for this year, my guess, 2024 is going to ask a lot of us to uproot ourselves. And think about, like, rooting, digging deep is good, but when we have, like, toxic vines growing out of us that, like, weld us to things that are not right in our lives. And I say this as a pastor because I know what we're all doing, and I know some of our habits. I think figuring out a way to just cut that off and move in the way God's intending. And then once we have made that huge change, can you imagine what God could do? You know, God, I think that's the whole point, is that Emmanuel, God with us, Jesus Christ, will show up when we have uprooted ourselves. We are the Holy Family.
So we'll again read up the toxicity for the new year so we can receive God's love.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that. And you know, it's so funny when you mention church, especially to this generation, my generation of people younger. They're like, oh, church can be boring. I don't want to go to church. I've been to your church, and it's completely different from the perceived idea of church. I want you to just explain to me what informed the decision to actually make your church so open, so different from the traditional type of churches that we've known. Well, just
where does that come from? It comes from a lot of tradition within this church. They called me because they wanted me to continue with the pastors before us did. I mean, we were the church that ordained the first in our denomination who was an openly gay male, Alan Harris, and hello, Alan, and that sense of openness, of seeking where God is taking us, even though it's against the norm, is this church's ethos. And so the problem is that you can never get comfortable with that. So it's always an edge. And if it's not an edge, then all you're doing is propaganda. So we seek to continue to find, like, okay, we might have gotten this right. What are we getting wrong? Because that's growth. I think all of us can, and that's another sense of uprooting.
I like that. So the doors are open, guys. Come through. Okay. On a final note, what's your message moving into the new year? What should we expect? What's going to be different? And how can we draw people closer to Jesus in 2024?
I think that this is a time where we're going to see a familiarity of conflict that we've walked away from for a minute. I think it might feel a little bit more like 2016, 2017 because it's a presidential election year. There's going to be more rift lines drawn. It's going to be even crazier because everybody knows how to manipulate the system even more. And I think that means, I don't know, maybe I invite everybody to decide not to be manipulated.
That's a good one.
To figure out how it can be that you build what you need to know what the truth is. And the truth shall set you free.
Oh.
The truth is where God is. God is true.
That.
And so when we're in truth, we're experiencing God. We are encountering Jesus, God with us anew. A lie is not God with you, right? So you want God, which means you want the truth.
I absolutely love that. The truth shall set you free.
Yes, sir.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And thank you so much for all that you do. Happy New Year to you too. And we'll look forward to the new year. Thank you for watching.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Oh, I love it.